Mabugabuti Church. The response to that in Tonga is Gabotu. Gabotu. So Mabugabuti, Gabotu. So hello everyone. For those who may not know me, my name is Kaitlyn, and I got to spend 8 months in Zambia at Riverside Farm Institute, and I had a wild time. It was so much fun. But first, while I'm up here, I really want to just thank you guys for all the support that you've given me even before I left, for just helping me financially or while I was there through your prayers. That meant a lot to me. And even when I was there, my family came to visit, and I know a lot of you guys also supported the ministry that a local lady was doing that I think my family told you guys about. There was a lady who was feeding a lot of students, young little students that can't afford food. And so I really appreciate that. I really am so grateful for such a awesome church family like you guys. But yeah, I think when I was in college and even when I was young, I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be involved in missions and that I wanted to take a student mission year. And I decided to do that after I graduated college. And so before I graduated, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I honestly had no idea. And I was nearing graduation. And I think I was thinking about going to the islands because I remember telling the student missions director that I just wanted to go where like a ton of people were going because I just wanted to be with a ton of people. And so I think I originally was thinking about going to one of the islands, because usually a large group goes there. But then one of my friends in college was like, hey, have you ever thought about going to Riverside Farm Institute? And I was like, no, what is that? She's like, it's in Zambia. And I was like, I didn't even realize Zambia was a country. Actually, I probably did. I just, I didn't even think about it. And so I talked to the missions director, and he said that there was this position as like a counselor mentor, and that really interested me. Wow. And so I decided to reach out to them, and within like literally a couple days they were like, sure, we'd love to have you. And then before I knew it, I was on a plane having visa problems. It took forever for me to get there, but I ended up there somehow by the grace of God. I had never been to Africa before. And so I honestly had literally no idea what to expect. I knew it was going to be really hot. I had some friends that had been there before, and honestly some people here that also been there before that told me a little bit about the place. But I really don't think that any of that could have really prepared me for what I experienced there. Yeah, you can. So, like I said, I was told that I would be working with a counseling team, and that's what I expected. They said that I would be counseling students a little bit later because they wanted me to like shadow the counselors and like, figure out how things work down there. And so, yeah, I came in expecting a counseling team, but once I got to the school, they were like, what are you talking about? What's a counseling team? Mind you, I only graduated with a psychology degree, not like a counseling degree, so I don't know how to counsel. And so me and a couple of the two other girls that are in this photo, the three of us were working at the school, and so we were like, what on earth are we supposed to do? And so for the first couple of months, we just worked on starting up a counseling kind of a system and program for the students, because a lot of these students come from pretty hard backgrounds, so they do need a lot of mentoring and counseling. So honestly, the first couple of months were pretty difficult. We had no idea what we were doing. I had no idea what I was doing. And there were a lot of times when I did not feel useful at all. I would literally be at the school, and I would just sit there for hours, like saying hi to a couple of the students, but like, the students don't really know you yet, so they're just like, hey. And I worked mostly at the high school, and so these are high schoolers, okay? Like first of all, they don't know you, they don't really want to talk to you, and so it was honestly slightly really intimidating. And that was really challenging because I was like, God, I don't know why I'm here. All I'm literally doing is just sitting here trying to say hi to the students. Sometimes I'd go to the primary school, which is the elementary school. They call it primary, which is elementary, and then secondary, which is high school. Anyways, over there. And so sometimes, like, the girls and I, we would just, like, play with the little kids. Like, we just push them on the swings. We would try to learn the language. And yeah, that's for weeks, that's kind of just what it looked like. And I think during that time, God really taught me and the other girls that sometimes we don't need to focus on accomplishing these big or important things. And it taught me that sometimes all he wants us to do is just trust him. And like Carissa was saying, that nothing we do will be in vain. And that even the small things that are done in love can be meaningful. That even though I'm sitting at this school for like hours just staring at a wall, staring at a ton of spiders and cockroaches that like run past me, that like even just holding a little kid's hand, pushing them on the swing is doing something meaningful. I also these are some of the photos of the students that I ended up connecting with later on, and I miss them a lot. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, here's some more of the girls. I also got to work with Child Impact, which was really cool. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's a sponsorship program that allows kids to afford going to school. And so this involved me going to different villages with this team looking for vulnerable students, vulnerable kids. A lot of these were girls because there really aren't any resources for girls that are vulnerable and grow up in really difficult circumstances. These are some of the primary students. Another part of my job with Child Impact is I had to take like pictures of them. And so these are some of the students that I took pictures of, and they're so adorable. And these are some of the primary students. Yeah, so on the photo on the right with the lady that's wearing the white, her name is Manda. She was kind of in charge of the Child Impact program. So I worked with her a lot, and that was a lot of fun. And occasionally, I also, these were the roads in Zambia. Yeah, so like while we would be going to different villages to like look for kids, meet kids, like it would be like that for hours. And also the director would drive us, and he is a crazy driver, so that did not help at all. Anyways. I occasionally also worked as a dentist. I'm just kidding. I just did a couple cleanings and like helped them suction. But honestly, if you guys ever need a cleaning, please hit me up. I would be more than happy to clean your teeth. So yeah, that was a really cool opportunity. There's a dental truck at Riverside, and they do a lot of free dental care, which is super cool. And they needed some help. And so I got to help them out with that. And we got to go on a lot of outreaches, which was super fun, until their like car broke down, and so we weren't able to do that for a while. But what the dental and medical team would do is they would go to like a lot of the neighboring villages and offer a lot of like medical and dental care. And so that was really fun. Now you might be wondering, what was it like to live there? Well, first of all, I'm going to admit that I am actually kind of cold right now. Like, I'm actually cold because it was so hot over there. And the seasons in Zambia are like opposite to our seasons. So when I came in September, like here, that's when we enter into fall and like winter. But like there, that's like hot season. Like that is the hottest it gets there. And so I thought I was going to melt. That was probably honestly one of the most challenging parts of being there because we did not have AC ever. We had a couple of fans, but it was just like hot air blowing. And so we took a lot of showers and prayed. And so, yeah, throughout October, November, December, it was really brutal. But somehow, by God's grace, we made it. And then around when it's like winter here, it started to cool off, and that's when rainy season happened, and that was amazing. This was my house. There were four of us total. So three other student missionary girls that lived with me. That was my room. The boys, there were some boy missionaries, they lived like 10 minutes away from us, like a 10-minute walk. They did not have a kitchen because they were like, boys don't cook, but the girls do. So honestly, that was really fun because all student missionaries got to eat together like basically every single day. But yeah, and when we got there were a lot of spiders, like a lot of spiders, and they were so scary. And it caused a lot of screaming. You can see. That was literally everywhere.
I'm not saying, I don't think it's evil.
Like in our rooms, on our beds, in our kitchen, in the bathroom.
Is it still there? See, I think...
And for the first couple of days, it literally, like, at night, it was just, like, constant screaming. I'm not even kidding. Like, constant screaming. But then we found out that those spiders actually are really nice. They're very harmless. They actually eat, like, a ton of mosquitoes. And so we became friends, and we like them now. But yeah, another kind of challenging thing that I faced that I did not expect to face was the language barrier. Before I went there, everyone told me that everybody spoke English. And although the national language in Zambia is English, there are 72 different dialects in that country. It's very tribal, and so each tribe kind of has their own language. There are like three main ones. One of them is Tonga, the other one's Nyanja and Bemba. But even like there's three. And so it was really difficult to kind of keep up with the language and like learn how to speak it. And so honestly, we just kind of learned how to greet people and how to say thank you, which is Twalumba. That's in Tonga. Anyways, but yeah, that was a bit difficult at first. And at the schools, it was a lot easier because most of the students, are taught English. But in the more rural areas, most people didn't speak English, and even if they did, they had a really thick accent. And so it kind of made it difficult to understand them. And honestly, I didn't realize how much I had learned how to understand the accent until like my family came, and a lot of other families would visit, and they're like, they're speaking English? Like, do you understand what they're saying? And I'm like, actually, yes. And so I thought that was kind of cool how you kind of adapt to all of that. The food there, this is kind of like their traditional food. The white stuff is made out of corn maize, and it's called nshima. And they eat that with literally everything. And Zambians love it. And I actually really liked it at first, but it gets a little bit old, and then it gets like stuck in your stomach, and you feel like you have concrete in your stomach for like days. So we ended up doing a lot of our own cooking, but yeah, this was kind of the traditional food that people eat. And it was really funny because sometimes we'd have a lot of Zambians over to our house, and we'd feed them like pasta, but they'd just tell us like, we're still hungry. Like, do you guys have shima? And we're like, we literally just fed you like 5 bowls of pasta. And so I thought that was really funny. There was also so much good fruit. The fruit there was amazing. I unfortunately did not put up any pictures of them, but the mangoes, amazing. Lychee, amazing. Avocados, amazing. So if you guys ever want to eat some great mangoes, avocados, lychee, please feel free to visit Zambia. There were also a lot of like grocery stores, but right next to Riverside was kind of like a little market that we'd often get our produce at, and it looked a lot like that. And these were what a lot of the villages would look like. There were always super cute kids. And we'd often go and do a lot of outreach, and sometimes us student missionaries would literally there's like a village right outside of Riverside called Turnpike, and so we'd just walk out there, and as soon as you walk out there, there's like kids everywhere, and suddenly there's a soccer ball, and suddenly they want you to play soccer. Actually, they call it football. And so we did a lot of playing football, singing songs with them. But in the beginning of my time in Zambia, they take you on a 3-week mission trip. It's like a mission trip within a mission trip. They took us this time to this island, and we called it Crocodile Island. And that is what the island looked like. There was literally no shade, almost. No really vegetation. It was just rocks and a lot of sand. And the main source of income for most of the people living there was through fishing. And so when I went there, I genuinely felt like I was in Bible times. Everyone was living in these mud houses. And so we were there doing a lot of medical work and Bible work. And yes, it was very hot. That was during hot season. There was a church there, and the picture on the right is of the church and some of the kids that were over there. And this is what kind of the living conditions were like. Everything was done at the lake. You took a shower at the lake. You washed your dishes at the lake. If you had to use a bathroom, people just went to the lake. If you wanted to cool off, you could go to the lake. But thankfully, the picture in the middle, it was our little bathroom that we used for 3 weeks. There was 2 of them. But for 3 weeks, that was kind of the only place we could really relieve ourselves. And the picture on the far left was the boat that we would take, because it was a little island, and every single time we'd want to get food, we'd have to take the boat back to the mainland. And it was definitely a crazy ride. But that was pretty hard. And by the time we left, we finally got to use toilets. And that was genuinely the most exciting thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. So please never take for granted flushing toilets. I never realized I could be so excited by a toilet. But yeah, and then afterwards, I got typhoid. I'm smiling in these pictures, but honestly it was really brutal. And I had to take ciprofloxacin for those who are interested. Anyways, that healed me, and the grace of God healed me. Another pretty fun thing that we got to do was go on a lot of safaris. And I don't have, honestly, a lot of pictures of the animals that we saw, but we saw a lot of elephants. Actually, the photo on the far left was of an elephant that passed by our campsite, and it was really close, and honestly, that was kind of scary. And we got to visit Victoria Falls, see some lions, and the photo on the far left is of, what do they call it? I think it's called a lunar rainbow. It was at night. That photo was taken at almost 9 p.m. But the light of the moon reflecting with a mist of the falls just still creates rainbows at night. And we thought that was really cool. But yeah, I think while I was there, the people there definitely was what made my time there the most meaningful. My missions team was awesome, and I feel really blessed to have had them. But yeah, I got to meet some really cool people. I got to hear some really, really good stories, and that is my missions group. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share something that I thought a lot about while I was there, and it was through a verse that I had found on my notes app, and it's found in Ezekiel 34, verse 26. And it says, "And I will make them and the places around my hill a blessing, and I will send down the showers in their seasons. They shall be showers of blessing." In this verse, God's people, which is you and me, are illustrated as a hill. And when it rains, the highest areas, such as hills and mountains, are the first locations to receive the rain. And then they bring it down into the valleys. God invites us to dwell with him where we can receive the waters of his blessings freely. And he not only desires for us to be blessed, but also to bless the people around us. You can think about it this way. God created us almost like cups. And I'm sure you guys have heard this before. God created us like cups to receive, but also to pour into other people. And like I was saying as I was sharing a lot of the photos, there were a lot of times where I felt very inadequate and like I didn't have much to give. And there were also a lot of moments when I realized that I wasn't allowing God to pour into me so that I could pour into other people. And so I felt like that was a really good lesson for me to realize that we can only really give anything that's meaningful when we allow God to pour into us first. Something that I thought was interesting about this verse was that it says, "They shall be showers of blessing." And I read it in a couple different translation, and it still says blessing. And I always thought it said blessings, like plural, but it's singular. And I believe this is purposeful, and that it is referring to the one thing or the one person, which is Jesus, that we need. And so throughout my time there, I would often have to remind myself to make sure that I had room for him to fill me so that I could pour into other people. There's another quote that I want to read by Ellen White, and it says, let me pull it up here. It says, "Every true disciple is born into the kingdom of God as a missionary. No sooner does he come to know the Savior than he desires to make others acquainted with him. The saving and sanctifying truth cannot be shut up in his heart. He who drinks of the living water becomes the fountain of life. The receiver becomes a giver. The grace of Christ in the soul is like a spring in the desert, welling up to refresh all and making those who are ready to perish eager to drink of the water of life. In doing this work, a greater blessing is received than if we work merely to benefit ourselves." And so, if I've learned anything at all as a missionary this past year, it's that we are called to be a missionary anywhere we go, anywhere we are. It doesn't have to be at a foreign place. It could be at school, at work, or in your own home. And that being a missionary has more to do with the condition of our heart than the place we're at. How empty is your cup? How much are you allowing God to pour into you? And how willing are you to obey him and follow him where he leads?